Hey guys, welcome to the first Atlantic hurricane season predictions for 2026. Now, now we're in 2026. Hope you all had a good new year. Yeah, moving on to bigger and better things for the channel this year. So, um, this is my early 2026 Atlantic hurricane season predictions. Take them as a grain of salt because all the models could be wrong at this time. It's better off looking into when we get past spring, like May, June, then we know, oh, that's for certain. We could be seeing an El Nino, could be seeing a La Nina. We don't know. We could see warm neutral, cold neutral. We don't know. Models can change. Models can fluctuate. We've seen that with tropical cyclones when the GFS wants a category 5 to form in the Atlantic, but ends up being like a category 2 or doesn't even form or anything. So, at the moment, I have the CanSIPS model up at the moment. They are showing for December 31st, they haven't updated this yet, 2025. They are showing the La Nina, but it's very weak at this time. Um, Obviously, as it moves into January, this is January, February, and March of 2026. February, March, April, May. You can see that warm tongue in the eastern Pacific. Then you can see the warmer than normal waters in the subtropical Atlantic and in the Gulf of Mexico and in the Caribbean. Well, the Gulf of Mexico slash Gulf of America. I'll always call it the Gulf of Mexico. But yeah, the NDR is also significantly above average as well. So even if we do have an El Nino, even if it's a weak El Nino, we could. I'm not I'm not saying we could have a below average hurricane season like we did back in 2015. But I do think I honestly do think that looking at 2023 and how that played out, that was a moderate El Nino, weak El Nino, and you saw what 2023 brought us. 20 named storms. I think it was 20 named storms, 10 hurricanes, and three majors. So I mean, it could bring us anything. I mean, this is for March, April, May. April, May, June 2026. M- May, June, July. June, July, August, July, August, September, October, and November. You can see that warm tongue in the. It kind of reminds me of 2023. I'm not gonna lie. Is that a warm tongue? This is the warm tongue that we had this year and late 2023. It also kind of reminds me of the warm water we had in 2024 as well. Now, just because the models are predicting an El Nino. Yes, El Nino does weaken storms and does produce more wind shear in the Atlantic, but that doesn't stop the storms from forming. Look at 2023 for example. That was an El Nino year. We had 20 named storms in an El Nino year, which is unprecedented. That has never happened before. So, at this moment in time, though, they do have it October, November, December 2026, and they do have a very weak, a very weak El Nino. It's at its strongest in August, September, October, and then obviously it weakens in September, October, November. Now, you could be thinking, well, it is definitely an El Nino, right? No, it's uncertain. We're not sure if it will be an El Nino or not. And even if it is an El Nino, how would the Pacific take the convection off the Atlantic? So that means would the East Pac, the Sea Pac, and the West Pac have most of the activity and the Atlantic none? Or would the Atlantic take all the activity and not allow the activity to be as much in the West Pac, Sea Pac, or East Pac? Because we did see that we had when we had when we had an El Nino back in 2023, we were all expecting an average hurricane season. Obviously, due to the warm waters that we had in the in the Atlantic, we ended up having 20 named storms. So, do take this as a grain of salt. This is the Canceps model. I'll show you the other model. Um, this is the monthly. They kind of do have the El Nino forming a lot later. They have it forming a lot later. Yeah, they do have it forming by for September. Bang on September, they have it forming. So yeah, I mean, it might be a bit late by the time the El Nino comes on. If the El Nino comes on right about October time, then it'll be already late anyway, because the half of the hurricane season would have been gone. Because like say if we had if it did form in May, which is probably unlikely, because it takes 5 months from an El Nino to a La Nina, and then La Nina back to El Nino again. It takes ages for it to transition. So if it did form in March, May, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, it would probably peak in September, October, and give us an average hurricane season. But because the most of the models wanted it forming in August, late August, early to late September, then it could be too late for the Atlantic. It could be too late for the East Pac to really get some significant activity. So Tropical Storm Risk, by the way, has come out with their forecast. Obviously, it they are based in London, UK. Um, so this is what they say. This is what they have. This is what they think. So they are predicting 14 tropical storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes for 2026, and have an ACE index of 125. Now that's a near normal season. That's a normal season. Well, in terms of hurricanes and major hurricanes, but tropical storms is below average a little bit. But the ACE values is a lot higher than an average season. I think the only reason why they are predicting this though is because of the warm waters in the Atlantic. Back in when we had that very powerful El Nino back in 2014-15 seasons, those 2 seasons, um, the Atlantic was cooler than average. That's why you saw the MDR didn't really. That's why you saw the MDR didn't really. The MDR produced a lot of storms, but as most of the storms moved into the Caribbean or out into the open Atlantic, they just completely died off due to the wind shear. They are. They do say here though. They do say. So this is what. This is what they. This is what they say. So August, September sea surface temperatures in the tropical North Atlantic region of 10 degrees north to 20 degrees north, 20 degrees west to 60 degrees west, and the Caribbean Sea are forecast to be warmer than normal. The current forecast is for 3 point or 0.34 degrees Celsius warmer than normal. The 1991 to 2020 climatology for both regions warmer than normal waters provide additional heat and moisture to help power the development of more storms in the hurricane main development region. Trade winds. The July September forecast trade winds at 925 millibar height over the Caribbean Sea and tropical North Atlantic is forecast to be slightly weaker than normal Although there is a high uncertainty at this lead time, weaker than normal trade winds during July and September in the tropical North Atlantic are associated with higher cyclonic vorticity and decreased vertical wind shear over the hurricane made development region. This turns increased hurricane frequency and intensity. Enzo, based on international research institution for the climate and society, models predict projections with majority available models predicting a warm neutral to develop by summer 2026. A minor of available models predict a weak El Nino conditions to develop and persist through summer of 2026. Warm, neutral, or weak El Nino conditions will likely have a small suppressing factor on the 2026 North Atlantic hurricane season. Through increasingly vertical wind shear across the Caribbean and the tropical Atlantic. Analog years. The November 2025 sea surface temperature pattern globally combined with the current forecast summer Enzo state is the most comparable to 2011, 2017. By the way, 2017 is one of the top analogs this year. And we saw what happened in that season. We had Irma, Maria, Katia, we had Harvey, we had Jose, we had Franklin, we had Ophelia, we had Gert. Those powerful storms. Most of these years had La Nina conditions in place set this time and transitioned into a warm neutral marginal El Nino conditions by the following summer. The ACE index during the following two hurricane seasons was 133 and 129. By the following summer, the ACE, right, similar to the TSR December 2025 forecast, while 2018 saw two very destructive US landfall in the hurricanes, it is possible to say anything about the destruction and potential of the 2026 hurricane season. So they say here, forecast skill at time forecast skill at this lead time is historically low. There are large uncertainties in the extended range forecast for the North Atlantic hurricane season activity in 2026. The uncertainties are described below. Atlantic MDRC surface temperatures. There are reasonable confidence that the sea surface temperatures in the tropical Atlantic will be warmer than average, which is enhanced effect for hurricane activity. However, historical forecast skill is low at this lead time. The available climate models are ascended via tropical tibbets and the TSR statistical prediction model are predicting warmer than average sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic main development region of 10 degrees north, 20 degrees north, 60 degrees west to 20 degrees west, and Caribbean Sea, though August September 2026, there are limited confidence for warm enzo neutral conditions to be placed through summer and autumn due to historical low skill predicting the summer enzo state prior mid spring and majority of available forecasts models, the IRI predicting a weak El Nino conditions to develop by early summer 2026. There are moderate confidence that La Nina conditions will not be in place through the summer and autumn. So they are confident that not going to be an El Nino. I mean, that not going to be an La Nina, but they do say warm to weak El Nino. Now, if it is a warm neutral, that doesn't mean oh we're going to get less storms because don't forget 2022 no, 2024 was a cold neutral year, and look what 2024 was last year. This year, 2025, 2025 last year was a neutral to weak La Nina year. And look what that was. So who could say that 2026 will be below average? in my personal, in my personal, my personal belief, I think that the this year's Atlantic hurricane season will be active. I don't think it will be hyperactive because if it was going to be hyperactive, we would have to have a La Nina, and most of their models do have a weak El Nino forming, but that doesn't mean weak El Nino doesn't really affect the Atlantic. Okay, it affects the wind shear a little bit, but it doesn't affect the cold waters. If we had a very strong North Atlantic and a cold, if we had a very strong La Nina if we had if we had a very strong El Nino and we had a cold Atlantic, then yeah, it would affect the Atlantic. It would make the Atlantic have drier air. It would have the make the Atlantic have cooler sea surface temperatures. It will make the Atlantic have a higher wind shear. Most of the storms when they come off the coast of Africa, they won't form, and most of the hurricanes, the Gulf anyway, in an El Nino year doesn't get affected. It's the Caribbean and the MDR. The Caribbean and MDR always in El Nino year not suitable. So that's what they're saying. Anyway, say here for the spring NAO for the North Atlantic multi-decadal oscillation, the sign of April to June NOA has insert correlation with the upcoming Atlantic hurricane season activity, i.e., a positive spring North Atlantic oscillation trend to be followed by a less active hurricane season. Though enhanced trade winds speed leading to cooler tropical Atlantic sea surface temperatures is not possible to predict the April to June NAO at this time with any confidence. Therefore, the factor has not been included in our extended tropical forecast range. And fair play to them as well for not doing that. But yeah, this is the tropical. This I will if I can find the link, I'll leave the link down in the description for this, so you guys can read this by yourselves. But yeah, anyway, let's go into cyclonic WX. You can see now, look, you can see the sea surface temperature anomalies. Obviously, okay, I know it says like December 30th, 2025, it hasn't updated yet. But you can see the warmer than normal waters on this side of the Pacific. You can see there's no cold water at all to reinforce this. It's just hot water. Now that's why I reckon we're going to have an El Nino, because looking at that, we saw the same pattern in 2023. My top analogs this year are 2023, 2011, 2017, 2018, 2015, 2016, 2014. Well, not 2014, because the Atlantic's warmer than average. So I say 2006, 2007 is my analog. 2009 is also another analog. 2010 as well, even though that was an La Nina year, you could certainly say that the reason why I predict 2010 is because 2010 had a more of a eastward bias season, where most of the storms, like Igor and all them, moved out towards the open ocean and didn't really affect the United States. Now, I think we're going to have more landfalling hurricanes this year on the United States coastline. And thank God we didn't have any hurricane or any major hurricane landfall last year on the United States coastline, which is brilliant news because they already went through Helene, Milton, Francine, um, Helene, Milton, and Francine, or and Debbie. Five five landfalling hurricanes in one season last year. Two were majors. Two were major hurricanes. So thank God. Hopefully we didn't have. Thank God we didn't have any major hurricane landfalling last year. But looking at the pattern, I think if this pattern does exist, the Caribbean will be hostile, which it will be good because it won't allow for the long tracking hurricanes to form to go in the Caribbean. But you can also see a track like like we saw with Beryl and like we saw with Erin, for example. But yeah, you can see. But if you have a look on the ocean analysis, you can see the Enzo model here is a 1.85 degrees below the long-term average. So technically, right now we're still in the La Nina, but that won't happen by I think March, April time-ish. We should be in neutral conditions. So keep a lookout for this. I will also have another one of these videos in February. So I'll have one every month. So stay tuned for that because I'll be posting a lot more this year. So stay tuned. But yeah, that's the 3.4 region. The 3.4 region is the most important region because the 3.4 region is this region here. You could see that the Atlantic is warmer than average. Okay, you're probably thinking, oh, okay, well, the MDR is probably cooler than average. It is expected to be colder than average this time of year. It's always colder than average this time of year, the MDR, because the trade winds are a lot stronger. The trade winds are a lot stronger at the end of the hurricane season. The the trade winds will start relaxing in May, June, July, when we should have the weak trade winds, which then will relax the sea surface temperatures, and that will allow the sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic to significantly warm up. So that's the pattern at the moment. For the Eastern Pacific, I'm going with an average hurricane season. So I'm thinking for the Eastern Pacific, we're having 15. I think for the East Pac, we're having 15 um, tropical storms, six hurricanes, three major hurricanes in 2026. For the Atlantic, I think we're going to have 15 tropical storms, seven hurricanes, and four major hurricanes this year. The reason why I think four majors is because the Atlantic is just going to be above average again. You saw it in the past 7 years that the Atlantic has been above the long term average ever since 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. 10 years, the Atlantic has been above average. 10 years. So it's been a decade. It's been a decade that the Atlantic has had 10 hurricane seasons that has been average to hyperactive to slightly above average. Like the most active hurricane seasons were, you could say, were 2017. You could say 2019, 2020, 21, 23, 24. Six out of six out of three hurricane seasons has had more than 16 named storms. 2017 had 17 named storms. 2018 no 2019 had 18 named storms. 2020 2020 had 30 named storms. 2021 had 21 named storms. 2025 no 2023 had 20 named storms. 2025 and 19 named storms. So, see what the pattern is here. Just because we have a lower, just because last year we had 14 named storms, uh, 14 named storms, five hur- uh, five hurricanes and four majors, doesn't mean oh it was a week it wasn't active. just because of the you look at the numbers and say, oh, we're just averaging tropical storms. Just because we're averaging tropical storms doesn't mean it's a above average hurricane season. It makes a lot of stuff to have an to make an above average hurricane season. Anyway, guys, that is my this is my update. My first tropical Atlantic update for the Atlantic. We do have some activity out there at the moment, though. Um, we do have tropical cyclone Grant. Well, we have Iggy at the moment, 40 knots, 1,000 millibars. Not really doing that much. It's been absolute sheared to death at the moment. It's moving into cooler sea surface temperatures, so not really doing that well, to be honest. Grant, though, 35 knots, 998 millibars. It's looking better than what it did yesterday, but it is moving into warmer waters, so do expect some strengthening a little bit. Obviously, not rapid or intense. Probably it's probably going to get back to what 50, 60 miles an hour, maybe 70 miles an hour before weakening again. But yeah, obviously we have subtropical depression 99p, which is not named, by the way. We have the remnants of Haley at the moment, still over the Western Australian coastline, just stalling over there. It could move back over the open ocean, maybe into the Gulf of Carpentaria or something. So yeah. Anyway, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Thank you for 102 subscribers. It means the world to me. Let's get that to 150 by the hurricane season of 2026. So I think we could do that. May, September, July, February, January, February, March, April, May. 5 months. We've got 5 months to reach that goal. So yeah. Anyway, see you in the next update, and I shall see you all very soon. Stay safe. Enjoy 2026 and see you all in the next video. Peace and have a great day.